Welcome dear students to yet another lecture on the history of English language and literature. And in our class today we shall discuss about the dissolution of the British Empire, the once mighty British Empire. It was dissolved, shattered, crumbled down. We shall have a short look at this dissolution of the great British Empire. When the Great Exhibition opened in Britain in 1851, Britain was the greatest imperial power in history. But at the launch of the Festival of Britain in 1951, after 100 years, that empire was crumbling before the nation's eyes. The empire on which sun never sets came crumbling down. In 1851, as I said, there was a great exhibition. At the Great Exhibition of 1851, Britain was at the pinnacle of the world's attention and admiration. It was the greatest industrial power, greatest imperial power, greatest naval power. In the 1860s, we see the colonial uprising. By the 1860s, the empire had begun to experience resistance from its colonies. The Second Maori War that lasted for 12 years began in 1860 in New Zealand. In 1865, there was a colonial struggle with Jamaica, the rebellion by the free slaves. When we come to 1867, Fenian groups carried out violence in London and Manchester. Fenian group, secret political organizations dedicated to the establishment of an independent Irish Republic in the 19th and the 20th century. In South Africa, we have learned about the Boer War, the Boer War of 1899 to 1902. It exposed the British Army's shortcomings and led to the death of nearly 30,000 Africans in refugee camps. When we come to the 1890s, the global supremacy of Britain was threatened by the rising power of the German Empire. The First World War, we had a detailed description of the First World War. The First World War exposed the serious failings of Britain's top leadership. The Easter Uprising of 1916 in Dublin was a warning that the demands of Irish nationalism should be met soon. The Anglo-Irish Treaty of 1921, it partitioned Ireland and provided a solution to the Irish question. This was the first rupture in the union of the United Kingdom that was established in 1801. The Atlantic Charter of 1941, it was meant to reorder the world at the end of the Second World War. It was about the right of people to choose forms of government under which they live. Winston Churchill was a reluctant signatory to the Atlantic Charter, which was the initiative of the United States of America. The fall of Singapore was the death knell for the Eastern Empire. The Battle of Singapore between the Japanese and the British Empire ended with the victory of Japan. And when we come to India, we see Gandhi and the Quit India movement of the Congress Party of India, which brought chaos to Britain. India and Pakistan was independent in 1947. Ceylon and Burma was independent in 1948 and Palestine was abandoned. In 1949, the Irish Free State became a republic and left the Commonwealth. Now, what is this Commonwealth? Commonwealth is an international association consisting of the UK together with states that were previously part of the British Empire and its dependencies. When we come to 1951, we see the Festival of Britain. 1851, we had the Great Exhibition. 1951, the Festival of Britain. Great Britain witnessed the Festival of Britain 100 years after the Great Exhibition. While the Great Exhibition was meant to show the power and prestige and the industrial growth of Britain to the entire world, the festival was a celebration of a nation's recovery from the perils of the Second World War. The Suez crisis, the Suez Canal crisis, showed Britain's fall from the status of a great power. The Suez Canal is an artificial sea level waterway in Egypt connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea through the Isthmus of Suez. It is often considered to define the border between Africa and Asia. The Suez Canal, constructed by the Suez Canal Company between 1859 and 1869, it was officially opened on 17th November 1869. The Suez Canal offers watercraft a more direct route between the Northern Atlantic and Northern Indian Oceans via the Mediterranean and the Red Seas, thus avoiding the South Atlantic and the South Indian Oceans and reducing the journey distance from the Arabian Sea to London. The United Kingdom and France owned the Suez Canal until July 1956, when the President of Egypt in July 1956, Gamal Abdel Nasser, he nationalized the Suez Canal. So it led to the Suez Canal crisis of October-November 1956. The canal is owned and maintained by the Suez Canal Authority of Egypt. The plot of Britain to take back the Suez Canal by force, by military force from Egypt, was a lamentable failure. UK, Britain was no more a superpower. Decolonization was a complex process for Great Britain. Each colony exerted pressure on the British Empire that ranged from riots to massacres and a lot of movements for independence. In 1997, Hong Kong was returned to the Chinese administration. Now this handover marked the end of Britain's empire. Thus, the mighty British Empire, the empire on which sun never sets, will be dissolved. We are coming to the end of a short lecture on the dissolution of the British Empire. For your assignment, please prepare a long answer on the dissolution of the British Empire. Thank you for your patient listening. Please stay safe at home. Have a nice time. Thank you.